Okay, good morning. Um, I'm going to be covering a very important topic in SQL and generally in relation database management system. And the IDE environment you are going to be using is MySQL Workbench. So if you are having issue in setting up your MySQL Workbench with your server, I will advise you to go through our prior video in order to be able to do that. So now, let's go to the business for today's class. The reason why I call it a very important table in relational database management system is because uh, there is a need for combining two tables in order to approach solving any real life problem. So that's the reason I use the word relational database management system. So I'm going to be creating two tables in a database. Then at the end of the day, I will now join the two tables using either inner join, outer join, uh, left join, right join, or the likes. So the first thing I'm going to do is that before you can actually join two tables, there are some things you need to consider by the time you are creating the table. So that's why I will create a database. So how am I going to do that? Just quickly go to come in. Okay, go to the schema. This is the icon for creating database. Click on plus. So what should I call the name? Let's say SolarX. That's the name of the school. And I'm going to click on apply. As you all know the code for that, create schema, then the name of the database, then you terminate, then you apply. Now, after I've done that, as you can see, that the SolarX database that I just created has appeared. And I think I told you that in case you didn't see the database you just created, just click on this refresh icon that is in front of the schema test. So now, as you can see, this is an empty database because what makes up a database is tables. So as you can see, there's no table. That's why you can't see the right directional arrow that is bolded. So now the next thing is, how do we create a table? So assuming we want to create two tables, I will call one student and I'll call the other one score. Joining table is a very good practice in database management system. So for you to really understand what I'm doing, let me use Excel to explain better. Using joining helps you to overpopulate your variables in a particular table. I've seen newbies in creating database table in which every of their variables will be in a single column. Why? Because they find it difficult to join it, but it's not really a best practice. So that's why, for example, now I can decide to say, okay, ID, I'm going to use a simple example, name of the student, the gender, what else? Maybe the age, but I'll just use three columns in this sense. Then at the end of the day, maybe they have mass score, they will still put the scores in this same place. So what I want to do now is that I will only create ID, name, gender. Then the second table will be for what? Will be for score. So now let's assume 1, 2. I know you know that. Let's highlight and drag to 5. I don't want to do much. Name, maybe this is Color. This is John. This is Abraham. This is Peter. And this is Paul. Are you following? Let's say the gender is, this is male, male, male. Sorry, let me change. At least let's have one female. Mary. This is female. And this is what? Sorry. This is female. And this is what? Male. So at the end of the day, I will now have the second sheet. And this second sheet, the only thing I will just need is the ID, because I always tell my students every table you create in database, let it have its own separate ID. Then this one will now be my what? Student underscore ID. The reason why I call this one student underscore, because this is the foreign key that I will use to reference the ID that is here. So the reason why I call it the name of this table, this table is, let me rename this table. This table is student, and this table is core. So it's always a common practice, or the better practice, that the fact this is the score, and I want to make reference to the ID of this place. So I'll just call this one student ID. So when you see me putting anything here, one, do you know who I'm talking to? I'm still talking to color. Are you getting me? Because I know that the ID of color is one. So when you see me there, I'm still coming here and I'm still using 1, I'm still talking to what? To color. So if I use 2, 2, 2 here, who am I talking to? I'm talking to no other person but what? But John. I'm just trying to use this as an example. So now I can now come up to what? Score. Then possibly maybe 20, 30, 50, 60, 80. I know you'll be wondering. Now I repeated 1, and that's why I told you, let it be a common practice. Anytime you are creating a fresh table, let there be ID. For example, now I can create another table if I like. I can call it subjects. Okay, let me even go wide. So it's very possible that you join 3 tables together. So I can call this one what? Let me rename this one and call it subjects. 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 Am I making any sense? Subjects. So now when I get to subject, definitely every table will always have its own ID. 1, 2. Then now if I want to relate this subject with score, so that means I'll call it what? I'll call it score ID. Am I making any sense? Score ID. So now the fact that I'm saying this is 1. So if I come here and I'm saying 1, you should know that I'm actually talking to this score 1. Are you following? So if I'm talking to 1, the fact that I'm repeating 1 here, I'm talking to this first guy. So I can decide and call this one name, even though, okay, maybe I can call this one maths. So from this, you can still relay this back. Since I'm saying, oh, for score ID 1, so that means this one is talking about what? It's talking about maths. Even though if I want to do it in a real life, I'm supposed to do subjects before score. Are you getting me? So, but all this, I'm just using it to what? To explain to us how you can interrelate tables together. So, without wasting much time, I just did this so that you have a good understanding of what I'm doing. But now, let me now go to my, what is it called? My SQL, and create some tables that I can use. But for today, you understand, let me just relate 2 tables together. So as we continue, we can look at how to relate more than two tables together. So now, the next thing I'm going to do is, you all know how to create a table. How do you create a table? You just simply what? I can even decide to right click on this table or click on create table. Now please take note of this aspect, is very important. So I want to call this one student. Now since I'm calling it student, now you will see that there are three icons at the right. So let me click on the middle one. The reason I'm clicking on the middle one is that so that I can see where I will create each of my variables for this table, that is each of my columns. So now the student is the table. So now the first one is ID. So after ID, you should know that the ID is a primary key and is not null. Primary key is simply a unique identifier that you can use to what? To connect this particular table, or to make reference to each of the rows or each of the users in this particular table. So then it's always auto increase. That's why you see me that when I was working in Excel, I keep on writing 1 2 3 4 5 here. So it's normally auto increase. You understand? The primary key. So let me continue. Now after that, let's say name. So you can leave that in virtual. Then the last thing I did is gender. Exactly. So now the first table is quite not as important as when you are creating the second table. So when you are creating the first table, there is no more stress. I can just click on what? Apply. There's no more stress. So, and this to tell you how to create your table manually. As you can see, create table followed by the name of the database and the table name. Then after that, you start stating each column. So each variable ID is integer, that's the data type. Not null, it cannot be empty. Then it's auto increase, comma. That means you want to go to the next column. The next column is what? Name. So the varchar is 45, then null, that is can be empty. The meaning of, let me say this, it can be empty means that even when you are filling a particular form and you decide not to fill name, it will still allow you to go to the database. That's null. But anyone I said not null, it means it can be empty, so you must fill that place. So gender, partial 45, then the primary key is what? The ID. Can you see it's been stated? So I'll click on what? Apply. Okay, successful. I'll finish. Then now the second one is very, very important. Very, very important. Let's create the second one. That's where we'll use the foreign key and also the references. So now let's see how I can do that. Don't forget, I'm still under SolarX. I'll right click again. Okay, let me first refresh to see, okay, the student is there. Right click on the table again, creative. Now take note of this. For this second one, I'll use my what? My score. Are you following? Now for my score, then I will now start. I've told you, you must only have a primary key ID that you will use to identify each of the rows. That's why you always see, I tell my student most time, anytime you are creating a table, always make sure that it has his own ID. Can you see? Almost every table I'm creating it has its own separate ID. The essence is that you always use this to as a primary key and also as a reference point. You understand? To other table. So now in this case, I'm only working on student and score. So if this is the ID, the primary key. So by the time I want to do score, don't forget that is student ID that I'm using here is a what? Is a foreign key. Foreign what? Foreign key that references the student table and the what? The ID variable. Don't worry, let me practicalize what I just said. Okay, let's see. ID, there's no problem. The primary key, auto increase. Then don't forget the student what? Underscore ID. I always tell you, name it after the proud table. Student underscore ID. So this is a foreign key. Don't forget. So and a foreign key, you must know something. When a foreign key in another table wants to connect with the what? With the primary key of the previous table, they must be of the same data type. If you can remember, when we were doing what students table, the what? The data type is what? Int. So that's the reason why this one must also be what? It must also be integer. So I'll come here and convert this to what? Integer. Are you following? Am I making any sense? Then the last column is what? Is score. Please, this is very, very important. Very, very important. So it's better it's not, no, it can't be empty. It must fill in something. So are we following? So okay, okay. So now you will not have finish. Now this student ID, hmm, is the foreign key. I hope you understand that when they say someone is a foreigner, because this particular student ID is not a normal word. It's not just a normal column in this place, in this score. Is a column that is a foreign key. So that's why when you are writing the code, you put foreign key in capital letter, open your parenthesis, then you put student underscore ID. Don't worry, I'll show you the code by the time I created it. So this is the foreign key. So immediately I click on this, I'll go to what? Foreign key. Are you following me? So what is the foreign key name? Student underscore ID. So one of the ways I tell my students so that it will be easy is that it's not just a normal column in that score. So it's a foreigner. Are you getting me? Foreigner in the sense that is a foreigner that has something to do with the previous table, which is what? Student table. So that's why I quickly type the name. Student underscore ID is a foreigner. So after that, you see that there's another column in front of it, reference table. So I'll click on this place. When you click on it, it will bring the what? The table. So which table are you referencing? I'm referencing students. That's the proud table. Is a foreigner that is referencing what? Student table. Are you following? That's not finished. So you now go to this other side. This is the first work area. You now go to this second work area. Now it's not asking you that, oh, which column is the foreign key? You are trying to pick one after for here. The foreign key is student ID. So what's the foreign key here? You tick it. Student underscore ID also. Now, what is the reference table here? In front of it, which is referencing what? Even though it's student, but which column is it referencing? ID. Am I making any sense? Aha. So after that, now when you're talking about on updates, I can put it on no action and I can decide to use restrict, cascade, set null. Are you getting me? Mostly when I put no action, that means it does not really matter. Do you understand? For example, now, if I can decide to put okay, I can decide to put cascade and okay, let me use just put it on no action, but let me use on delete for example so that you get what I'm actually saying. Now if I say cascade, now what this simply means is that when you are trying to, okay, for example, now you didn't know there's any table known as students and you want to try to delete, let me show you in Excel. Maybe I want to delete, okay, this is student and now came here and I want to delete this particular row. It will tell me that you can't. That is on delete. That is when you want to delete, is either I place it on restriction or cascade. That is, I can't delete this table because it has a link with what? With the previous table. But you might just leave it on no action. But the best thing is that let it be on what? Either restriction or on cascade. Do you understand? So that's when you are really a programmer. And okay, so now I'll click on what? Apply. Let's see. Now, before I do this, quickly look at what I'm saying. Can you see? You see that I said foreign key was student underscore ID. References student, then ID. On delete, no action. On update, no action. So I can use on delete cascade or on delete, what is it called? On delete restriction. So at the end of the day, I'll click on what? Apply. Can you see? Successful. So this is a sign that I have been able to what? To create my two tables professionally. Am I making any sense? I've been able to what? To create my two tables what? Professionally. So there's now a linkage between the what? Between the two tables. The what? The score and the student. So now by the time I'm using joining, it will work perfectly. Even though if you didn't do all these things, it might still work, but there's things will not be working well as it should. You understand? So that's why it's better you create your table perfectly so that by the time you are using it, it's going to work the way you actually want it to work. Are you following? Are you following? I'm just feeling that oh, maybe some of you did not really get the issue of the the cascade and the update cascade. Now, when I say when I pick the okay, let me show you so that I will explain better. Now here, if I say on update, it means that when you want to update, you know the meaning of update now. Maybe you want to edit a particular row because there's a difference between insert. Insert means that it's a fresh row, but update means the row is there before, but you want to update it, you want to edit it. You understand? So if I put on delete here, I'm sorry, on update, or I use on delete, maybe I put it in cascade. It means that let me start with on delete cascade. If a particular student is deleted and all its okay, if a particular which column are we doing now? We are in score. If a particular score is deleted and all its students will also be what? Will also be deleted. If a particular score is deleted, then all the what? All the students will be so their link will be what? Deleted. That's the meaning of on delete cascade. Is that clear? Then when you're saying on update cascade, it means that if the particular what is it called? If the particular score you are making an attempt to actually update it, it will also what? It will also be reflected on the prior table. You understand? So I think I'm going to stop there. So in the next class, we'll now do the real joining. So thank you.